Herzlich willkommen zurück zur Interwetten Baltic Sea Darts Open 2023. Die erste Runde live aus der Wunderino Arena hier in Kiel, präsentiert von der PDC Europe. Zeit für unser viertes Spiel dieser Freitagabend-Session. Wir begrüßen auf der Bühne aus Irland mit einem Titel auf der Pro Tour. Ein European Championship Viertelfinalist, ein Finalist auf der European Tour. Hier kommt the Magpie, William O'Connor. Sein Gegner kommt aus St. Helens, England, die aktuelle 23 der Welt. Ein WM- und World Grand Prix Halbfinalist und der frühere Lakeside Champion of the World, the Bullet, Stephen Bunting.
Well, a couple of former finalists on the Euro Tour, a couple of PDC ranking title winners, and one of these men, of course, was a world champion at the Lakeside. It's that man with his arms spread wide, the Bullet, Stephen Bunting. And I have to say that all the way through last year, without really looking like he was going to add to his title haul, he wasn't getting into finals on a regular basis. What Stephen Bunting did was play at a very, very consistent level. He looked good, he felt good, and at the World Championship he put in some of his best ever displays. The one standout one was his victory over Dave Chisnell. In fact, the ultimate winner, Michael Smith, was given as tough a time by Stephen Bunting as pretty much anybody at Ali Pali this year. He goes up against Willie O'Connor, who his standout display of the last few months was seeing off Bo Greaves at the World Championship, because she was very, very good, and Willie O'Connor was just good enough to stop Bo from picking up a debut win at Ali Pali. It's an intriguing game, and whereas this evening things have been rather one-sided in the matches so far, this has the ingredients to be a close one, but it remains to be seen if that's the case. Dan McCarthy alongside me as the Bullet takes on the Magpie.
Yeah, we don't want to jinx it, but this one does have an 11-leg potential about it. And Stephen Bunting, you mentioned about the fact that he's so consistent. He's such a regular in floor quarterfinals and last 16s, and he likes having good runs here. They are two perennial bridesmaids of the European Tour, both of them reaching finals. Willie O'Connor had a very curious European Tour record last year. He only qualified for two of them, got to the final in Hungary, so from playing only 2 of 13 events, he wasn't that far away from qualifying for Dortmund to play in the European Championship. Didn't quite get there. And where Willie O'Connor is concerned, I am wondering if 2023, the year where he makes the jump, because look at this, the last 4 years, year-end ranking, 37, 36, 37, 37.
Yeah, intriguing, isn't it?
99.
There have been little times, certainly when he picked up his sole PDC title, he really did look like he had made that jump. He'd gone from being a player who hadn't even gone to the World Championship. And then he was winning titles and doing all sorts and hitting an enormous amount of 180s. But he is a man who's changed his throwing action on a couple of occasions.
95.
And I'm not really sure whether we're going to see that sort of burst from him again, where he suddenly looks like he can make that step. There's no reason why we couldn't.
140.
There's a lot of other players who are vying to be the next big thing. Stephen Bunting, I mean, it's astonishing
100.
the career he's had, because it really did look like he might be falling away. He was looking at job adverts in the paper because he thought darts might not be for him anymore, and lo and behold, he now thinks he's playing better than ever. He's regularly doing stuff in big events. He's one of the most consistent performers on the floor, and everything is rosy again.
Yeah, two contrasting players, really, because I think it's safe to say that Willie O'Connor is pretty inconsistent, and that's been displayed in his year so far, as Stephen Bunting looks to take the opening salvo.
20.
He won't do with darts like that.
70.
Early break opportunity for Willie O'Connor, and this would settle him down. Plenty for double 16, you would imagine.
54.
Early double trouble.
20.
They're both worried the wires. A real metal bender that Bunting threw at that double 10 with his second dart, but he finds it there.
Stephen Bunting.
16 dart hold of throw to kick things off. Doesn't have a very good record against Willie O'Connor. I know that many people just dismiss head-to-head stats, but you're Stephen Bunting and you played 8 games against somebody and you've lost 6 of them. That probably is something that sticks in your head. And one of them was significant. It was the UK Open last year, went all the way to a last leg decider and lost 10-9. So that will be pretty fresh in the memory.
Yeah, and it backs our prediction up that this one could go to a last leg decider, because they have done it before. Last year, that was, without question, the highlight of Willie O'Connor's year, reaching the semi-final in Minehead. He lost out to the eventual champion, Danny Noppert, so no disgrace in going out there.
121.
But this year, the Magpie swooped in to beat Christoph Ratajski in the first Players' Championship, then lost to Michael Van Geuren, Scott Weeks and Brendan Dolan in round 1. So not an ideal start to the year for Willie O'Connor.
Yeah, you kind of made the point you were making earlier. Look, Willie O'Connor can be really good and really successful. Last year, he's reached a major semi-final at the UK Open, and he's reached a Euro Tour final. There just wasn't a great deal in between all.
Yeah, the next task for him is to try and force his way into the top 32. What his countryman Steve Lennon managed a few years ago, but he's since dropped out.
64.
Stephen Bunting's big task is to pick up a TV title, perhaps. He's knocked on the door on a few occasions.
27. Stephen, you require 57.
It's a mess there from O'Connor, only getting a dart at the ball, and you can see from his facial expression it should have been better than that. Double 10 again for Bunting. Lantier goes at it now, and he's hit it twice, so it's 2-0. That's a break and throw.
Game on.
They're only 2 legs in, but he's averaging 97 here, Bunting, and it's not really a surprise.
Yeah, I was just going to make the point. 2 legs in, 116 average on the first 9.
58.
He's taken a bit of a drop, but he's scoring all right at the minute.
You do wonder now that they've changed the prize money structure for the European Tour this year, so if you do reach a final, that's £12,000 in ranking money. Whether reaching a final, you have to do even less, you would think, to get to the European Championship.
140.
If that's the case. But of course, there is more money elsewhere in the draw, so it's always guesswork with how much is going to be good enough to reach the European Championship, which will play out at Dortmund again at the end of the year.
Well, one thing that it definitely does do is it gives players a a lot more motivation when it comes to the Euro Tour, because players can often complain of fatigue and tiredness, and usually the Euro Tour is the one that bites the dust first. Players will skip some tournaments, so this does give players more incentive to come and give it a real crack.
Well, it does and it doesn't, doesn't it? Because ultimately, a lot of these, we've talked about how hard it is to qualify for these things, and we've seen plenty of players who've qualified for this one and haven't qualified for any of the next 3 events. So you would think if you're qualifying for only 2 or 3 Euro Tours, you're champing at the bit to get there and play. It doesn't matter if you need to take 2 flights, 3 flights. You can go and win 25, 30 grand. Well, 30 grand this year, 25 last year. So you want to go and do it. Double top for 3-0. Stephen Bunting looking pretty good right now. It is the big boys, the seeded players, the ones who are in everything. We saw with Gerwyn Price, we saw with Michael Smith, who did skip someone's and skip them late. That's the problem. You can miss them. You've got to manage your schedule. It's just don't decide to pull out of a tournament you said you were going to play in and do it at 3 days' notice. So you end up with buys and things like that. Now, they have changed the structure of things this year, so we should be avoiding any buys. There's a reserve list of players. So, look, there's still a possibility you'll get buys, but people might be pulling out very late because they're ill or whatever. But yeah, you're right. There is an extra carrot. There's more money available. And there's also a bigger stick. There's some more fines around for anybody who does muck around with the system and cause problems for it. So let's hope we have a full card of action in every session for the entire of the year.
421.
Yeah, let's hope none of the players are naughty boys and decide to ring in sick the day before the start of the tournament. Things not going to plan for Willie O'Connor in this game so far.
Yeah, 96 average, but he's only had 2 darts at double. 1 was at the bull when it should have been at the outer ring because he made a mess of things. Willie O'Connor is
58.
Looking good for this leg, though. Could win it in an absolute canter. Nice adjustment. Ooh, kept on adjusting. It stayed there.
Well, if there's a time to make a mistake, it's when your opponent is having a bit of an off leg, as Stephen Bunting is. 6 darts from 115. They only need 3. Double 18.
79.
And he's made to wait for his first leg of the match.
This will keep him interested. Move over to the centre of the oche for Bunting, who starts very, very wide out on the right-hand side.
36.
Just a bit closer.
No score.
Well, that was further away.
Stephen Uruguay 106.
It looked inviting, and I thought, to be honest, with where that dart's landed, he's thrown at those 2 darts thinking it cannot fail but slide down those and into the double 18. And in the end, it's just parted like the Red Sea. Double 18. Oh, well, if that 106 had gone, he was about 250 points behind in this leg. If that had gone and it was 4-0, Willie O'Connor might have just taken his darts and walked off. But he is in this game now.
Good leg of Stephen to throw
Something to build on for Willie O'Connor, even though it's only a hole of throw, even though it's the poorest leg of the match, a 19-darter. Willie O'Connor
85.
has something that he can prod at Stephen Bunting now, and it looks like Bunting is getting his own back on the Irishman. The way that the draw opened up in the UK Open last year, I think everyone in the quarter-final stage would have fancied their chances.
Oh, 86. Oh, 86.
Part of Team Bunting watching on. I wouldn't have thought they're watching on that nervously at the minute because things are going quite nicely for him.
100.
It's been going quite nicely for Stephen Bunting for some time. Ranked right up there in the world. Well, not right up there, but he's 23 in the world coming into this weekend. With the, well, provisionally moves above Gary Anderson just by being here into the 22nd spot. He's quite nicely placed for things like the match play. Still a way to go, of course. But he'll expect to be in all the TV tournaments this year. He is, as we said at the start of this one,
58.
a consistent, regular accumulator of ranking money. That's the treble. Wants the single. Now wants the double. Back to his starting position over on the right-hand side. Flings his little 12-gram dart into the red bit for a 4-1 lead.
It's amazing, really, how Stephen Bunting is as good as he is, because he throws further away than most players because he stands at such an angle when addressing the hockey. Works for him, as do those 12-gram matchsticks that he chucks at the board.
140.
And he's not really broken sweat in this game, and he's 4-1 up.
Just looked a very comfortable 96 average, 50% on doubles. And so far tonight, that's too good for Willie O'Connor.
Both these players will be heading to Leverkusen at the end of next month. So they had good weekends. A couple of weeks ago in Barnsley, not so much last weekend because neither qualified for either tournament 3 or 4.
Well, evidently a monumental task tackling that Bratwurst in the crowd. Pretty big job that Willie O'Connor's got on his hands right now as well.
59.
Yeah, I'm not sure that poor woman enjoyed having the camera on her just then.
Better.
168.
Well, it's an accidental 168, but leaves him a manageable finish. The one he would have liked, but even Bunting is
96. William, you require
on a
8.
3-figure checkout. For Willie O'Connor again to hold throw.
And on the stick leg,
13 darter on the Irishman, the best leg of the game. But is he leaving it too little too late?
$45.
Winner to face the number 2 seeds, the man who won last night in the Premier League, Michael van Gerwen.
96.
Not quite the all-conquering MVG at the start of this year. Had a pretty ropey start by his own ridiculous standards to the Pro Tour events. And
81.
had a pretty frank assessment of his own performance last night, despite winning in Dublin in the Premier League. However, the European Tour always goes well for Michael van Gerwen. Well, Luke Humphries was the player on the Euro Tour, and indeed the Pro Tour all the way through last year. Michael van Gerwen was not very far behind, remember.
35 of them under his belt.
83.
5 times more than Phil Taylor, who's second on the list. I think it's fair to say that MVG is a big fan of the Euro Tour.
Yeah. There were times when his
92.
average prize money for these events was more than the runners-up prize money. And it'd still be pretty close.
There were probably times on the Euro Tour when everyone else went to think, if I get runner-up, that's a good result.
Well, just I hope you're in the other half. Maybe you'll get to the final. This is better from O'Connor.
121.
Having a little spell here where he's much more
152.
competitive.
This is competitive from Stephen Bunting, a 1-5-2 checkout. And Willie O'Connor can throw as many good darts as he wants. If Stephen Bunting takes those out, he's going through to round 2.
Well, the 120 was good, but it was under no real pressure whatsoever. Willie O'Connor was nowhere But you can see it's written all over O'Connor's face there. Just when things might be starting to turn, he's starting to play better, he might get a foothold in this game. Stephen Bunting reels in that massive checkout, and all of a sudden he is bereft again.
The facial expression of Willie O'Connor was along the lines of, can you not?
Yeah. Oh, wait, it turns out he can, and he did. And it might be the decisive moment.
And
Willie O'Connor in the unenviable position of having to win 4 out of 4 legs in order to go through in round 2.
60.
Well, it's been pretty lopsided stuff tonight. Richie Edhouse seeing off Sean Wilkinson quite comfortably. Ryan Joyce not really challenging Graham Usher at all. The only challenge Graham Usher faced was himself trying to hit doubles. Lucas Veinig, it was like a practice game, just playing himself. Ryan Meeker was making no impression during that contest. And Stephen Bunting has been the better player for the majority of this one. But you'd probably say that Bunting has been the standout performer so far tonight. Hitting more than half his darts at double, couple of ton-plus checkouts, mid-90s average. Yeah, he's got more gears to go through. He hasn't scored amazingly, but it's been pretty convincing.
Well, 160 apiece. It's not going to go for O'Connor.
100.
This would rub salt into those gaping wounds of O'Connor's right now.
Swig of water for Bunting. Wants this to be the last visit of the game. Not going to be, though. I swear he's better from the centre of the hockey. I'd love to see how good he could be if he just threw from the middle of the hockey. Oh, is that a little flatty dart?
Yeah,
it might have been, you know. Willie O'Connor taking a leaf out of Darryl Gurney's book by the looks of it. Just changing the grip slightly, meaning that the dart doesn't kick up. It's a nice open double top bed.
No, look of the Irish. He definitely meant it. And it's a tactic that's worked for Gurney. It's working for O'Connor. And I'd suggest a lot of players will follow. Willie O'Connor hits the game's first maximum. And there is an exasperated look on his face, but the comeback's got to start somewhere.
$490.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what a first dart that was. As demonstrated by that third one. But 5 out of 6 perfect darts to start the leg. And Willie O'Connor, all of a sudden, maybe there is a bit of life in this game. This is against the darts, remember, and it to be to cut the gap to just one leg.
We sound greedy, but we want to see a 9 in every tournament, at least one.
130.
That's more than good enough, though. A late burst, perhaps, from Willie O'Connor. And that 152 checkout from Bunting seems to have fired him up a little bit.
Well, it looks even more important now, doesn't it? If it weren't for that, Willie O'Connor was on a 2-dart.
51.
This game could be very, very different. Double 16. There's only one leg in it, and Willie O'Connor has the darts.
That leg is willing to throw first. Game on.
The darts to take the game to a last leg decider. And a repeat of their meeting at Minehead last year.
108.
He's finding his range now, Willie.
I think he's found it. His average has just crept above that of Bunting. He's up to 97 right now.
434.
That graphic there tells you that O'Connor scoring better than Bunting. It's just the latter stage of legs that have let him down too often in this game. I mean, 55% on the 56% on the doubles. That is very, very impressive. That's going to win you a lot of darts matches.
That's good.
140.
Still looking for his first 180. I would suggest if Stephen Bunting does get one between now and the end of the match, it could be pivotal.
96.
Well, he gets the numbers right, make sure he leaves a finish, thinking clearly. Or is this the max?
130, sir.
It isn't, but it leaves him a 2-dart checkout for the match. Great response from Stephen Bunting. He may not get a look at it, though. Oh, Willie O'Connor can't find the treble 19, and Stephen Bunting has a chance to win it without the stress of a last leg decider. He has to start on the 20s. He's got to give himself a chance. He's gone the ball. Now is it 15s? It is, and it leaves the ball.
65. William, you require
Easy to say in
68.
hindsight, but that looked like the wrong decision from Bunting. Now O'Connor might need the ball. But that treble 13 leaves double 12.
44.
And Stephen Bunting gets
Stephen, you
another
require
bite.
25.
Well, it wasn't a great first dart, but he did tidy it up and got a dart at the outer ring. That was the bare minimum. But he might be leaving with a bare minimum for this weekend. It's a first round exit. Stephen Bunting again accumulates more ranking money. One of the most consistent players on the tour over the last year or two. Kicks off his Euro Tour campaign for the year with a 6-4 win against Willie O'Connor. The closest we've seen so far tonight in terms of contests, but one that Bunting comes through, and that 1-5-2 checkout in the middle of the game looked to be the decisive moment. It'll be the Bullet versus mighty Michael van Gerwen in the second round tomorrow. That's 4 games done, 4 more to come for you tonight here at the Bunderino Arena in Kiel. And we're going to have the former handball player, another German, Florian Hempel, playing in this cathedral of handball in Kiel. He'll be taking on Richard Veenstra.